Hi, and welcome to Punished for Protecting. I'm your host, Francesca Amato Banfield, and the founder of the National Coalition for Family Court and CPS Reform. Tonight, I have another very special guest, a mother and a graduate, professional graduate, a mandated reporter, a certified rehabilitation counselor named Carole Pigman. Carole, welcome to our show tonight. And thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm very happy to have you this evening. Your story is one that is quite upsetting, and one of, unfortunately, thousands of stories. This is a story of abuse, serious accountability issues, and the more that I have seen of your case and read of your case, I wanted to get you on very quickly. I actually moved Carole up the ranks a little bit here because this is such an alarming story, and sadly, it is one of thousands upon thousands. Carole, before we get a little into your story, would you just tell me, the audience, a little bit about yourself and your background? And
So I've worked for over 30 years as a graduate level professional counselor. I have a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling and vocational evaluation. I'm a certified rehabilitation counselor as well as a mandatory reporter for over 30 years. I've helped populations, those that are severely disabled. I've worked with veterans with service-connected disabilities, those with severe post-traumatic stress disorders, families and children for many, many years, protecting them. I never, ever thought that my children and I would ever be protected. When I came forward, when my son disclosed the horrors that have occurred to him, I reported 3 years ago this August. And I never thought that the very people I entrusted to protect me and my children would turn their backs on us and not be there to help me and my children. We were almost in a shelter. And I helped people. I helped women flee from domestic violence. I reported abuse with elders and with children for over 30 years. And nobody was there for us.
now, in the 30 years time that you have personally reported abuse for others, leading up to this time in your particular situation, have you noticed an increase in neglectful, where they're closing their eyes and ears to what's happening? Have you noticed it happening at a, just increasingly, or has it been something that you've actually seen in the past 30 years?
At an alarming rate, I see it happening, particularly since it's happened to us personally. I was that mother who watched my children like a hawk. I was at every music. I was at their school volunteering many hours a week. I worked from home to keep my eye on my children and protect them, but I never thought that the actual monster would be within my family.
And one of the things, Carole, is the monster is in the family many times, which we've seen, but the monster is in our courts. The monster is also in our child protective services. So therefore, when we go as mothers and when all we do is protect our children and we go for help in a higher authority, it leaves us so re-victimized and so debilitated. Could you tell the viewing audience a little more about your story that led you to where we are today with your children and what has happened so that it can be familiarized?
My son, my two little ones were adopted from China and Vietnam. I also have an 18-year-old biological child who was left with the alleged perpetrator in Oregon, who's also a teacher. When my son disclosed, I had already kicked my ex-husband out, who happens to be a teacher. My son disclosed, it was so obvious to me that he had been brutally raped and sodomized. The behavior, the regression, the anxiety was unbelievable. I had him into my primary care physician, who also called the Clackamas County Sheriff's numerous times, called DHS. I immediately reported him. I fought to have my child seen at the Children's Center. Instead, the investigation was turned back on me. Law enforcement never interviewed my son. I was never told the progression of the police investigation. I found out later that I immediately reported to DHS, who also turned their back. I was called the most horrific things. I was called crazy, batshit crazy, you name it. I have all the DHS records. I've been astonished. I turned to this kid's school counselor, to the principal. The slander and the horrific comments about attacking my integrity and my character was unbelievable. Absolutely, my parents have never seen anything like it. I had friends that spoke horrifically about me and believed the perpetrator. I turned to so many who turned their backs on me and my children. We were almost in a shelter. I've been married once. That divorce was immediate. I filed for divorce. You harm my child, that's it. I later found out that the guy has a history. His family came forward. They reported to the district attorney, to the North Clackamas School District where he teaches, reported to teacher standards and practices, and the guy is still around children. Other victims have come forward. I've been called a liar. I've been estranged from my oldest daughter. The state of Oregon felt that she was safe to be left in his custody. We have been living a nightmare of unprecedented proportion. I have lost about everything. I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars trying to protect my children.
This is a story that I hear, and as an advocate, and I've been doing this for close to a decade, and being privy to countless cases in my county of Ulster County, New York, but also counties throughout the nation. This is exactly what we're seeing. You are one of millions. I hate to even say it. It is shocking. It is stunning. And this is exactly why I'm very thankful for your courage to speak up today, because it's strength in numbers of all the good, healthy parents that are speaking up. It is absolutely diabolical. It is unfathomable. People actually cannot believe that this is happening. We can't believe that this is happening, and we're the ones living the nightmare.
I have testified against him 6 times, the counselor 3 times, a professional counselor who has testified on behalf of abused and neglected foster and adopted children. She's testified 3 times against him. Nobody can believe that nothing has been done.
So you had professionals in your case, in your trial, so on and so forth, that have defended the truth.
And nothing has happened. They've all contacted DHS, the Clackamas County Sheriff's, Teacher Standards and Practices, the North Clackamas School District in Oregon, even the Attorney General, even the governor, the superintendent. I can't tell you how many people have been notified and how many people dropped the ball. It's been horrific. And now I find out that the guy indeed had a history. His whole entire family knew about his history, and nobody said a word to me. They all knew we were adopting children. It is horrifically negligent.
It is beyond negligent.
They knew what was in store for my child.
And now, where are they? The two adopted children now?
I have sole custody, but I'm still fighting because he keeps going. He was mandated to participate in yet a second family visitation assessment for 6 months. He stalled and thumbed his nose at the court, stalled and delayed, and made every excuse in the book to keep from participating in this counseling. He had no intention of participating in the counseling at all. I've had to, every year I have to renew orders of protection. In fact, I just had them renewed here with the Arizona Superior Court, and he's been served again. And I have to provide my kids' school and their principal protective orders to protect him from, we've moved back home to Arizona. But I've had protective orders not only for me, my children, my work, their school, even my boyfriend who watches and protects my children, but also my 92-year-old parents have had orders of protection served against that guy. He has not seen them since I reported. You would think that a parent in that neighborhood would think, why is this guy not even allowed to be around his own children?
I can say one thing is to be very thankful and grateful for the fact that he's not allowed at this point, because I have so many cases where they're given full custody. They're given unfettered access to the children after this type of abuse. I see this every day. So I'm glad that he can't be. Oh, it's been, you have no idea.
Yeah, I will continue to fight. I have heard that, and it's absolutely appalling. I will continue to fight to protect my children no matter what. My 92-year-old father has spent thousands of dollars protecting my children because we don't have any money. It's been horrific. It's in the thousands of dollars now. Not only did I raise the money to adopt my beautiful children through my work in Oregon, but now I'm having to raise money just to protect them here in this country where they should be safe. I have an 18-year-old biological daughter that the state of Oregon has left in his custody the past 3 years. His entire family's told me they fear for her safety as well because he's extremely violent. The counselor testified that this guy has absolutely no victim empathy at all.
So the 18-year-old is with him.
Very dangerous individual. Everyone has that report. Oh yeah. I fought like crazy to have her removed. So did our counselor, so did our pediatrician, so did our attorney. My family, everyone's fought to try to get her out of there.
Is she now suffering Stockholm syndrome? Because now she's of age. She could.
I have no idea. Apparently she's been going to college. This child was so bright, played 6 instruments, was so gifted. She could have had a full ride scholarship to Carnegie Mellon. I had her involved in so much, and I absolutely know that he's had her drop everything. He absolutely does not. He's narcissistic. He's a sociopath. He doesn't care about anybody else but himself.
So now,
and I have also heard that he has married for the 3rd time to a 3rd grade teacher in the North Clackamas School District. His family and I have notified her, something I was never afforded when I married him. Nobody told me about the guy, but we told her and she refuses to believe it. So now there are more children at risk.
Wow. Well, she'll learn the hard way. They usually do. I always say, listen to the ex.
Yes.
But your story is one that I do believe will bring just an abundance of attention to what is happening. Everyone that I interview, because see, there's a way of thinking that people think, well, if there must be more to the story, or if somebody loses their children, there must be something wrong with them, or all this stuff. And then when they start seeing interview after interview after interview, and thousands strong, generally the mothers or fathers, and it's generally mothers that I'm getting most of the calls from. They are very articulate, educated women with clean backgrounds, and everybody is stunned when they see and hear these women speaking. And in the cases where it's a protective father, where it's the type of a father that would do nothing but nurture and protect a woman and children, he's the one that's getting the raw end. So for some reason, these judges are just enjoying harming children, because that's really what this comes down to, is the children are being harmed. This is our future of our nation, because these children, what's going to happen to them? And we've got all the studies, and I would like you to kind of to speak to the audience a little bit about some of our studies that we've had experts on regarding ACEs and so on and so forth, and what's going to happen to these children as they're being placed at risk like this.
Oh, authorities must do due diligence in assessing a child's exposure to childhood trauma. It's so important. One thing I forgot to mention, I was called last September by my ex-husband's adopted father, who acknowledged that his family, his biological sister, and now his now deceased mother knew about his history. Someone was supposed to tell me before I even married the guy. As a matter of fact, the adopted father told me that he finally acknowledged to raping 2 other boys in the family to him last September. And it absolutely turned my stomach. My children are amazing. I did everything that needed to be done to protect them. I immediately separated them from the alleged abuser immediately. And I was absolutely vilified, called crazy, you name it. My children have participated in active counseling. I help veterans recover or try to deal with post-traumatic stress disorder and other populations for over 30 years. I never thought I'd have to help heal my own children, and I knew exactly what to do. There are so many children in our country sitting in classrooms that are exposed to childhood trauma. Nobody seems to have heard of the ACEs study, where they ask pointed questions about a child's home life to find out what's going on and whether that could have any impact on their ability to concentrate, focus, and achieve in school. They would certainly find out what that child is experiencing. And I had my children transferred from the North Clackamas School District to the Gladstone School District. I requested an emergency transfer because obviously my ex-husband was being protected. And they granted me that, but the superintendent at the Gladstone School District, I was very impressed because they believe and use in the ACEs inventory, which
Awesome.
asks a child pointed questions about their home life and what they've been exposed to growing up. And every child, I had the most magnificent parents. I just lost my mother this past week. My parents were absolutely awesome. Thank you. My mom wanted to see my oldest daughter for the last time. And unfortunately, because of the negligence in removing her from that environment, she wasn't able to see her for one last time. But I do know, after going through all this and hearing so many stories from other mothers, that my parents were absolutely amazing. I had absolutely zero ACE score before all this happened. As a mom, zero. And now after experiencing this and the trauma and the re-victimization and the shaming and shunning, I hate to tell you, I've had to.
I understand that, and just for the viewing audience, ACEs are, I'm sorry, ACEs, our ACE research would be adverse childhood experiences for anybody who doesn't understand what Carole is speaking of. Adverse childhood experiences, and then the scores go higher, which causes detrimental, irreparable damages to our children. When even just in proxy of abuse, let alone things actually happening and courts placing children right at risk and right in harm's way. And it's, our emphasis is the protection of these children and what we can do to stop these courts, because to me, they are the ultimate abusers. They are abusing authority. They are abusing power. There is something radically wrong with somebody that could sit in a position of power as a judge and have absolutely no discernment, no conscience in what they do, make decisions in 5 minutes haphazardly, believe that whatever anybody says is just he said, she said, when clear, overwhelming evidence is presented before the courts. And many times in these courts, they do not want to look at evidence. They just blow it off. Or they do see evidence, and many times they do see evidence, because in today's world, all a judge has to do is look up a background on somebody, and a criminal report comes up in 10 seconds right in front of the judge, and still ignore it. And to me, I want to say, I do not believe that these judges don't believe these mothers. I think that they know that the mothers are telling the truth, and that they know better, and they're still doing this diabolical act of placing children in harm's way. And I believe that they're doing it because it's money, and it's money to keep coming back and fighting for your children.
It's a revolving door. They don't even read the history. They don't read the history. With 6 times I testified against a guy, he had a different judge every single time. The last time I testified telephonically because I didn't have any money to fly back to Oregon. And all the abuse reports were unsealed and read. I later found out that my dear daughter was in the court. He dragged her into court, acting as a character witness. She was 17 at the time, dragged her into court. I said to the judge, I said, "You're kidding me. My daughter is in that courtroom hearing all this?" The abuse reports that everyone's read were unsealed. And the judge said, "I think she's old enough to hear this." I said, "You have got to be kidding me." I was stunned.
And not just the fact that you have to hear it, but to have to hear it in a setting such as that, without any preparation, without any preparation to be prepared to start hearing something this traumatic in just a one-shot deal like that. How horrible, how horrific, and how damaging. I don't even understand where they're going. It's almost like it's almost like they are the same as the abuser in the home. It's no different. It's actually worse as far as I'm concerned.
It is, because they know better. They absolutely should know better.
They should know better. And most states, children do not get any orders of protection at all. The mothers are getting the orders of protection many times to protect them. And now what we're having is an epidemic of mothers being their abusers being protected from the mother. And then when they take the children from the innocent mother and place them with the abuser, they protect the innocent mother, their protector, from the child, which is the most absurd and insane thing I've ever heard. You talk about a double abuse. It's unbelievable.
They denied me initially a restraining order because I ran in front of his full-size pickup truck and kicked him out of the apartment complex. They thought that I was a danger to him since I ran in front of his truck. But then I later got an immediate danger order for my son. I had never, ever heard of an immediate danger order until I flew to Arizona and I met with a wonderful childhood friend of mine who's adopted many, many children. She says, before you touch down in Portland, you get an immediate danger order for your son. She was absolutely appalled. She'd adopted internationally. This woman was amazing.
Immediate danger.
And then I also got major orders of protection here in Arizona, and he's been served. I just was absolutely stunned that the way the courts treat women. I was absolutely stunned. I was crying for protection. I went to churches in the area. I went to agencies in the area and was turned away. I couldn't believe it.
I hear you.
I was absolutely stunned.
I hear you.
I was called crazy. Every name in the book, even friends, retired teachers, mandatory reporters who were friends of mine, are now protecting, befriending, and defending the perpetrator. I don't know if they realize that other victims have already come forward. Even church parishioners have turned their backs on me and my children, where my children were baptized.
Yeah.
It's appalling.
It is absolutely appalling. And I always feel that we're always supposed to proceed to the side of caution. So even if we're not sure about something, when you hear something like this, I mean, I don't know if this is in your state. Here we have, if you see something, say something. It's about abusing children. If you see something, the full board say something. So children don't be, well, who do you tell? Who do you say something to? Because they don't do anything about it. So if you see something, you run and say something, you go to help, and they don't care.
They don't believe you anyway.
So. But we're going to make a difference.
Yes.
We are going to make a difference.
There's an operating preschool. There is an operating preschool right next to his classroom. And the teacher standards and practices have renewed his teaching license. Think of all those parents. I was told that our counselor said, Carole, I hate to tell you this, but by the time a sociopathic pedophile has been caught, like you caught your ex-husband, he will, on the average, have offended over 60 prior times. And those were 1980 statistics. And I don't know about anybody else, but the fact that another child could be in danger, I can't sleep at night. And I find it absolutely appalling that nothing has been done to protect other children from this monster.
And it's just the saddest thing ever. It's failure to protect, and then they compound it with abusing mothers for trying to protect, and then they compound that with taking children from their primary caretaker who wants to protect them. So they just continue to keep abusing and abusing and abusing. So
they're free to pray and groom again. They're free to groom, pray, and rape again and again and again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, is there anything else you wanted to add as we get close to the end of this segment to the viewing audience? Is there anything you wanted to share or say?
I think I've just about covered everything. It's been 3 years this August when I reported. I still have the Hello Kitty notepad that I wrote down what my son said to me when he first disclosed. It'll be 3 years, and we have been living in abject fear because nothing has been done about this guy.
Well, you are doing something by telling your story.
Yes.
You are doing
Yes.
something by telling your story. You are doing something by being courageous.
Thank you.
You are doing something by doing everything you can to stay mama bear and continue to protect your cubs. Our prayers and our heart are with you. And I'm so thankful to have you on this show. Watch a lot of the episodes. We have a lot of domestic violence experts that are speaking out, and a lot of good is happening. It is unfortunately way too slow, but I do feel that what's happening now is that everyone is, thousands now are literally joining together, and something is starting to break finally. And we have to continue to be the voice of this movement so that this ends, because the legislators aren't doing it, the senators aren't doing it, the governors aren't doing it. They know, they're not foolish. They know. I hand deliver evidence. We highlight it with a neon yellow marker. We point at stuff that's forensic medical. I am very bold. I take the person's eyes and actually put it on the paper if I have to. I mean, I'm being a little bit, but I mean, I literally, you can't get any more clear than this. And they all say the same thing. It's not my jurisdiction.
Yes, I've been told that. I've contacted the senators in Oregon. I've contacted a congressional representative of our area who's actually a legislative aide came over to my apartment in summer 2015 and got all the abuse records, and even contacted the Clackamas County Sheriffs and DHS. And she said, I'm not going to mention names, but she said there was nothing they could do either, but they were horrified. This guy's teaching in their district. Senators too, I've reported. Nobody seems to care.
I have no words.
Anyway.
But I do thank you very much for sharing your story. And I appreciate you being on and sharing all this with the live audience tonight. And, we look forward to continuing to hear a good report, and just keep up the good work that you're doing as well. I encourage you to do so. And I thank you very much for being with us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for hearing me. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. And I just would like to let the viewing audience know that if you'd like to be on our show, you can contact me at www.punished4beingaparent.com. Again, that's punished4beingaparent.com. Survivors of domestic violence, law enforcement, judges, former judges, domestic violence experts, sexual forensic experts, counselors, you're all welcome to come on and tell your story, to continue to fight this battle so that hopefully our children, which are the next generations, can be protected and have a better life for the next generations coming forward. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you.